Hello everyone and welcome back to this spooky coloured pencil Halloween tutorial. I mean, it's not very spooky, is it? But we'll just pretend that it is. So in the first video we drew these eyes together, so if you're just joining me now and you haven't seen part 1, I'll link it down below and then you can do the first step, and in this video we'll carry on drawing the fur. So yes, grab your pencils and let's just get started. We'll talk you through every step of the way. So first of all, I'm going to carry on extending this area outwards on the left eye. So I'm just rubbing away the pencil marks, and I'm going to just stick with the warm grey too. And I'm going to start just colouring in a nice smooth even base colour. I'm going to bring it to about here. There we go. I'll just leave it at that for now. And I'm going to use the Nougat again. Just carry on mapping some fur strokes in. Now they do sort of get a bit longer the further out they go, so they're a bit shorter closer to the eye and then they get a little bit longer. So I'm just doing slightly longer strokes with the pencil and I'm just like curling them round a bit because that's the direction they're going in on the picture. So I'm just starting to build that fur up even more, paying attention to the direction it's going in. And it is very, very dark, so we're going to need a lot of dark sepia and black on top of this, I think, but for now this is a good way to just map in the direction and just add that first layer of colour. It just looks so much better when you put a lighter colour down first and don't like go straight in with the dark colour, because it'll look a bit flat if you do that. And here I'm just going to do some little strokes. And I'm going to carry on adding some of the strokes at the top as well. My cold's definitely got better since the last video, so that's good. I had to cut out so many coughs and like sniffles. Gets a bit more like bluey toned up there, so I'm not going to go too far with that Nougat. Sort of just focusing it to where I can see more of a brown tone. I'm going to bring it down here. And then here where this little bit next to the nose is, I'm just going to sort of bring that fur around in this direction. There we go. I think I will leave it at that for now because I don't want to go too far in and sort of mess that bluey colour up. So I'm going to use the dark sepia and just start darkening up these hair strokes. And leaving some little gaps for some lighter hairs. So I'm not going too like dense with this. So I'm sort of doing like a little pointy shape there, like that. That is just a good way of creating that fur texture. So I'll just kind of like bring one down from the left and up to the right so it meets in the middle, like that. And that's what I'm doing when I'm doing it really fast, but you don't really see it that easily. So hopefully that's like made it a bit clearer. I'll just keep going over those strokes that we've made and blend down to meet this bit. I'm going to carry on bringing that fur up here. Doing nice long strokes. Just following that fur direction. And I'm going to carry on bringing them up this way. Just alternating the directions so that it looks nice and natural. Go and start bringing these strokes down. And I'm going to extend that base colour out there too. So the warm grey one, just going to start bringing that out a little bit. And a little bit at the top here. And I'm going to carry on with the Nougat underneath the eye. Just mapping out that fur. Curving it round this way. And then just bringing some more strokes down here, and then it goes up here again. Like that. And I think I'll carry on just extending these little bits. And then here it's sort of, some hairs coming up, some hairs sort of coming down. So I'm just alternating the direction there. There we go. That'll do for now. I'm going to carry on with the dark sepia, just further defining these little strokes. Every now and then I'm just leaving a little lighter hair, just so that it looks nice and detailed and it's not all just one flat colour. There's some lighter and darker hairs in there. I'm going to carry on from the bottom. Just around the eye on this outer part, just blending out from that lower lid. just have to keep moving my I've tried to say hand and arm, my arm around, just so that I can get the right direction with the pencil. If you've not stuck the paper down, feel free to just move the paper, but obviously I've taped it down so that it doesn't move for this tutorial. There we go. Just gradually building it up. And I'm going to carry on this little top bit, and it is a bit lighter and this little bit closer to the eye, so I am going to leave that quite light. Then focus the rest of the strokes a bit darker coming out of this top section. So I'm just leaving the odd light here. And I'm just going to add a few strokes into that bit. And then it's a bit darker underneath. And it's like these lighter hairs are kind of like sitting on top of this darker bit, so I'm just going to try and imitate that. And I'm going to do another little darker little shape here. So like one of those pointed shapes. You can see that. So I've done one line there, and it meets there. And then I'm just going to colour that in. And blend some strokes. And then it looks like there's a little light hair there. I think I'm going to do a really like detailed, like clear tutorial on how I draw fur, because like the do's and don'ts, because I just don't feel like it is the easiest way to explain it when you're drawing it on an actual animal. I think I just need to do it like a big section of just fur on its own and try and explain it a bit more clearly. And just adding a few more strokes in. Right, and I think now we need a bit of black, darken it up. So I'm just literally doing what we did with the dark sepia, just going in, adding an extra layer of fur texture, darken it up. So I'm just leaving it a bit lighter around here, and then adding some darker strokes coming up from that section. and it's very dark at the top here, so I'm just going to leave the odd lighter hair and do most of it pretty dense with the black. I find that the lighting goes really funny when I'm drawing black, so I've just turned one of them off, and hopefully you can see a bit more of like a true representation of like how dark it is, because it sort of reflects off the black parts. It's annoying. So yeah, hopefully you can see that nice and clearly. I'm just going to carry on adding that black with some fair strokes. And I'm going to add a bit of Payne's grey into this top part, and a nice bit of a blue tone. It's quite blue in areas. Sort of blending it into some of those lighter strokes, lighter hairs, to give a nice bluey tone. And I'm going to bring it down this right hand side. Nice blue tone into that area. And there's definitely a bit more blue around this lower lid. Especially around here. There we go, and I'm going to carry on with the black along this bottom part of the eye. There's a lot here. And quite dark around this part. So there's like a lighter bit here and then it gets darker. So I'm going to start the strokes from that darker area. Just building up and building up till you're at a point where you're happy with the depth. There we go. It's starting to look a bit more fur-like now. Give it a few little strokes coming up here. I'm actually going to darken this bit up a little. And I'm going to add a bit of the Payne's grey again. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this base colour out into this middle part. Oh, let's use that warm grey too. Even though it's a bit bluer here, I'm going to stick with the same base colour. It doesn't make too much difference when it's like the warm grey one, warm grey 2, or the cold grey one, cold grey 2. Because we can go over it with more of like a blue tone to cool down that area. Anyway, I'm just babbling on a bit, so just ignore me. We're going with the warm grey too. So I'm just going to bring it just sounded like a bird flew into the window. I don't think it has, but that was really weird. Carry on bringing that warm grey too. Making it nice and smooth. Nice smooth base layer. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit like mucky and patchy in places because we're going over it with dark colours. So don't worry too much if it's not like perfectly smooth and there are some darker areas. Okay, I think I'll leave it at that for now and we'll focus on this middle section and then we'll move on to this right eye. So I'm going to carry on with the Nougat because even though it's very blue here, there are some little flecks of brown that I can see. So we'll just carry on with it, carry on mapping out the first strokes. I'd love to know what your favourite Halloween film is. Going to a Halloween movie night, Halloween weekend, and I need some film ideas, so I'd love to know what your favourites are. If you even like Halloween and all that kind of stuff. Personally, I really like horror films and stuff, so I love Halloween. It's just fun. and I love going to like the scare parks. There's one near us called Scare Kingdom and it's so good. I'm just carrying on mapping that fur in. And I sort of do it from each eye and then I meet them in the middle so that I can make sure that everything's in the right place. It's going in the right direction. So I'm going to bring that closer to the middle. Like that. It looks a bit like all the same at the minute, but we'll add some detail on top. And then I'm going to bring some of them strokes around in this direction. Like that. And it's quite dark here, you can't really see too much. But it's going in this sort of general direction. I don't know if this cat is wet or if it's really mucky, but there's like loads of like stuff on its fur, which I quite like. It adds a bit of character. Looks like it's had a hard life. When I see pictures like this, I wonder whether they've done it just for like the photo shoot. But to be honest, I think it looks very edited as well, but I like that, especially for a spooky Halloween tutorial. And now I'm going to use a dark sepia and just carry on adding that second layer of fur. So I'm just blending it into this lighter section here. So it all looks nice and seamless. And I'm bringing it up. And so there's like a darker bit in the middle that I'm just going to add in. And it comes from both sides and meets there in the middle. And I'm going to carry on bringing some strokes down. Just sort of like bringing strokes down, bringing strokes up until these bits are connected. But I'm making sure to leave it a bit lighter here because that is where I'm going to add a bit of a nice vibrant blue colour. Same again at this side, bringing some strokes up, bringing some down until that bit sort of like meets. And I'm going to carry on bringing some strokes round. That one was a bit of a dodgy one. And start coming down here, the bit shorter towards the bottom. Just building up that fur. Gets a bit more confusing here, but I'm just gonna add what I can see. That comes round and down here. Like that, and same again this side, so like comes round, and it's like round in that direction. I don't think I'm going to add too many of these little splodgy bits. I think they're little drops of water, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to be too like precious about adding them in. That's the thing with drawing, you can sort of pick and choose what you want to add and what you don't really see as making the drawing better. Tidy that up a little bit. Right, and now I'm going to add a bit of that blue colour in before I go any further. So I'm going to try Ultramarine, which is like a blue, more of a blue than that, that's more turquoisey. So I'm going to add it in here first, see how that looks. And then I'm going to start sort of adding that blue through these lighter areas. in the centre of the nose. A little bit around here. And I'm going to bring it down here. And at this side. And I'm going to bring it down onto the actual nose. A little bit. And that'll do for now, and then I'm going to add some more black, and then I think I'll possibly add a bit of Payne's grey in after that. But for now I'm going to start with the black. So in this middle bit where it's darker, first I'm going to darken that up. Leaving some little lighter hairs wherever I can for a little bit of detail. I'm just not adding it to every little bit. I'm leaving the odd bit and the colour underneath that I can see. And I'm going to start bringing that black through this bluey section, just really sparsely, like a few hairs, just to blend it together. And then it's a bit darker, again, sort of like between this lighter bit and this blue bit. So I'm going to darken this little part up. Just alternating between upward strokes and downward strokes until it's all nice and blended together. And every now and then I do sort of twist my pencil round to get like the sharpest point. Add a bit more black here. I think actually I'm just going to add some to the underneath of that eye. Make it even darker. And I think I could do with some more strokes coming off. It's just a case of like really gradually darkening it up. So you do end up going back to sections that you've like already done to add more and more layers. go. Let's carry on with this bit, bringing it down. Doing really small strokes here. And just bringing that black down. And then I'm just going to do some little darker patches where this nose is. And carry on. So like going round, bringing that fur up the nose and down the nose like that. And then I think I might add a bit of Payne's grey just through this blue bit, just in certain areas, just a little bit. Just to like blend it together a bit more. And add a bit just around here, like that. And then I think I'll carry on with the black, and I'll start bringing it down this right hand side. Going to darken that middle bit up slightly. Making sure to meet in the middle from each side. Then I'm going to start, again, it's like lighter here and lighter here, and then there's like a darker bit. So I'm just going to start adding that darker bit in. Just bringing it down into this lighter section a little bit to blend it together. And then it needs to be darker up here. I'm going to add a little bit more of the Ultramarine just up here. And just going to glaze it over this right hand side of the nose. It is a bit more turquoisey here, so I'm just going to add a bit of the Prussian Blue. Let's try that. Just a little bit to add more of a vibrant turquoisey blue. Like that. And I'm going to add a bit of Payne's Grey into this lighter blue section, just to blend it together a bit more. There we go. And I'm going to add a bit of black. I'm going to just sort this bottom bit out. So I'm just literally going to start drawing in these darker shapes that I can see. And then adding in the shadows. And I think it needs to be darker here at this side. And there's like a darker bit here. Right, sort of just blending it all together a little bit more. And I think it needs to be a bit darker around this right hand side. It's like I'm going to add a little bit of that like water, I think. I'm just going to draw around that and then carry on adding the first strokes. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to add a few of these little weird drops in actually. Just drawing around them pretty much and then shading in between. Let's go over them slightly. And then it's a lot darker down here. So I'm pretty much just shading that darker area in, because it's pretty solid black, and if there's like a solid area that's dark, I pretty much just colour it in. Saves a bit of time. Just adding some more just there. So just drawing around a few more of these weird little blobby bits. I don't know how else to describe it. I think I might use a bit of white just to blend those little bits together. Just make them stand out a bit more. There's a lot few little random patches of this. Just going to draw around that a little bit so it stands out a bit more. Quite like it, adds a bit of texture actually, so I'm just going to use a bit of the Helio Turquoise and just glaze over tiny bit. And I'm just going to add a bit more texture and just add in a little bit of black through those little weird patches. Okay, I think now I'm going to carry on with this right eye. So I'm going to just tidy up the paper a little bit. And I'm going to use the warm grey too, and just bring this base colour all the way around this right eye. There we go, and I'm going to carry on with the Nougat, just mapping in that fur. Following the direction. Just all the way around this right eye. And then I'm going to start with the dark sepia. then here where it's like going downwards, I'm just drawing around some of the lighter hairs. Just making sure I'm getting this direction right. They're all sort of just going all over the place there. Darkening up that little inner part. Darkening up this little area here. And I'm going to carry on bringing these strokes around this lower part of the eye, and again I'm leaving this tiny bit lighter. And I'm going to use some black to start darkening it up. Just blowing away those little bits. And add a few more strokes through this area. Then I'm going to carry on darkening this a little bit up. Just drawing around those lighter hairs so that we don't lose them. And I'm going to carry on bringing that black around the lower part. It's building up. That outer part. And I'm going to add a bit of the Ultramarine blue through this little bit, the lower lid, just to add a bit more of a blue tone. And I'm going to add it through this upper part as well. And a little bit down here. And I think I'm going to add a bit more through these lighter blue sections, just to make that colour more vibrant. Just going to keep going over it till it's nice and blended. And a little bit down into this section. And I'm going to add a little bit to the top of this left eye. And I think now it's just going to be a case of refining the whole thing, tidying it all up and finishing it off really. I always like to do a bit of extra like refining at the end, now that you can see it as a whole drawing. I'm going to add a bit more dark sepia just up. Bringing that colour up a little bit. Mostly just so it's nice and symmetrical at both sides. I might add a little bit of white. I'm going to try it. Might go terribly wrong. Just going to try picking out some little lighter strokes just through these little lighter bits. Does make it go slightly bluey toned, which is the only annoying thing, but it's a good way to add a little bit of a lighter colour back in if you've gone too far. Lighten up this little bit. Add a few lighter strokes. Let's see, and maybe a few just around. I think it needs a bit more beige red. It's very pinky here. I'm just going to go over the top, sort of blend a bit of beige red in. A little bit over that inner corner, and this little inner corner, and maybe a tiny bit more on this left side. And I think I'm just going to refine it with a bit more black, just in the really dark areas. I'm going to use my tracing paper so I don't smudge it. I'm just going to smooth those areas out. Better. Sometimes you don't want it to be like every single stroke that you can see, and you want it to be more of like a full sort of like section clumped together, just to make it a bit more realistic and like less pencil-y looking. I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes you just need more of a dense area. It's not till you've done it all that you can see sometimes. Like where it's really dark, I just like to pretty much just do like the whole section in one block. I think it just adds a nicer contrast. Going to darken up this little bit under the eye, mostly focusing on this darker bit underneath the lighter part. And same at this side. Darken up underneath the eye. And I think we need a bit more black here. Through here. So many layers in black fur. I'm just going to add a bit more just to darken that little blue bit up, tone it down a bit and blend it all together. I spend so long like perfecting it at the end. You could honestly just go on forever. And a few little strokes through there. I'm just gonna darken up around the eye a little bit more. I think I could use a little bit more of a shadow in that eye. So I'm going to use a bit of Payne's Grey. Just sort of darken up that lower edge. A little bit more on this outer part, leaving that yellow bit nice and vibrant. A little bit more on this inner corner. Then same again on the side. Just want to darken it a little bit more. I think a little bit at the top, just to make it look a bit more rounded. And a little bit down this left side. And I'm going to add a bit more raw umber, just Just going to use some dark sepia. And I'm just going to tidy up this little bit here and a little bit more. That's better. And a little bit just to finish off these little edges. Like that, and I'm just going to tidy it up with a little bit more black. Right, I'm just going to bring this middle bit up a tiny bit just because I want the shape of the drawing to look a bit nicer, because I'm weird like that. So I'm just going to bring some strokes up with the dark sepia. Just towards that centre. And then gradually coming down. Just think it looks a bit more, I don't know, finished, just looks better. And then I'm going to use some of the Payne's grey. Start blending that up. And a bit of black. Just going to extend the darker bits up. Just sort of like blending the edge out a little bit so it looks less like plonked it on the paper. It looks a bit more, I don't know, just like to finish it off a bit more nicely. Right, I'm happy with that now. Looks a bit more like, I don't know, I'm just happy with it. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial, and please make sure to give me a comment and a like if you have. It would help me out so much, and subscribe to see more. I'd love to have you join me for some more future videos, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a really good Halloween if you've got plans, and if not, I hope that you have a good one regardless. So yes, see you in the next one. Bye bye.